Over the past few months, the HBO Harry Potter series hasn't just started filming. It's slowly been revealed, piece by piece, through set leaks. We've seen real locations shut down, full scenes recreated, major characters spotted in costume, and entire story beats exposed long before HBO was ready to show anything officially. So in this video, we're doing the full recap. From the very first on-set leaks in London, through Cornwall, Skipton, Lustleigh, Hertfordshire, all the way to the latest Hogwarts footage. This is every major filming leak, in the exact order it happened, and what it tells us about how HBO is building this series. Smash that like button early, subscribe, cause we're breaking all down. Let's go. After the official start of production announcement and the controlled first image of Dominic McLaughlin holding the clapperboard, HBO still appeared to have a firm grip on secrecy. That grip lasted exactly a few days. The first real leaks didn't come from remote villages or hidden soundstages. They came from one of the most public places imaginable, London Zoo. In mid-July, photos and eyewitness reports began circulating from the reptile house, confirming that HBO had returned to the exact same location used in the 2001 film. But this time, the shoot was bigger, longer, and far more detailed. Dominic McLaughlin was spotted filming in full costume, marking the first time the new Harry Potter was seen properly in action rather than in an official still. What immediately stood out wasn't just the location, but the attention to detail. Leaked images showed the production using not only the reptile enclosure, but also the penguin section. Extras were dressed as tourists. Dudley and Piers were seen holding ice creams, while Harry was noticeably left out, mirroring the small but cruel detail from the book where Dudley gets treats and Harry gets leftovers. That single choice spoke volumes. It suggested that HBO wasn't treating the zoo scene as a quick, functional introduction to Harry's magic. Instead, they were rebuilding it as a full character moment, using background behavior and mundane cruelty to establish Harry's place in the world before anything magical even happens. This was also the moment Dominic McLaughlin stopped being an abstract casting announcement and became, visually, Harry Potter. The hoodie, the glasses, the posture. Fans immediately commented on how close the look felt to the book description without copying Daniel Radcliffe directly. Here's what fans were saying online. One Redditor wrote, "My first thought was how hard they went in on the 90s vibe. I am so here for it. I was worried the series would modernize the franchise, but seeing this feels like it is going to be so nostalgic for many reasons." Another posted, "It's so aggressively 90s, I love it. Petunia gives off such Karen vibes as she rightly should." And someone else added, "Yep, they look more 90s middle class over the posh 1950s-like styling of the movies, which feels a lot more realistic and lived in. I love it." Once those images were out, something changed. The production was no longer invisible. From that point on, every filming truck, every location closure, every lighting rig had people watching closely. Immediately after the zoo shoot, crews were spotted on residential streets like Perrin Road in Acton, where period-accurate cars were brought in and the area was dressed down to feel unmistakably early 1990s. This wasn't a flashy sequence. It was small, controlled, and deliberately mundane, which is exactly why it drew attention. Based on set activity and timing, these scenes are widely believed to be part of Chapter 1 of Philosopher's Stone. Specifically, the moments where the Dursleys are increasingly unsettled by strange events happening around them, including the infamous milkman scene where Petunia refuses to answer the door and collects eggs through a window instead. The film skipped this entirely. HBO didn't, and that was becoming a pattern. Around the same time, the first major Harry and Hagrid leak surfaced in central London. Dominic McLaughlin was photographed walking alongside an enormous Hagrid stand-in actor wearing a prosthetic head designed to match Nick Frost's likeness. This was a deliberate technical choice, and one that immediately reassured fans who had been worried about Hagrid's scale. The production wasn't compromising the character. They were using the same mix of practical effects and visual trickery that made Hagrid feel physically imposing in the original films. What made these leaks especially interesting was the setting. Reports suggested the scene involved Harry and Hagrid navigating the Muggle world together. possibly even using public transport on their way to Diagon Alley. That kind of grounded transition is straight out of the early chapters of the book, where the magical world slowly bleeds into the ordinary one. Hagrid takes Harry to Diagon Alley for the first time, buying robes, getting his wand, the Gringotts visit, all that good stuff. It's such an iconic part of the first book. By this point, it was clear that HBO wasn't rushing toward Hogwarts. They were taking their time with Harry's life before magic fully takes over. Season 1 was starting exactly where the book starts, and it wasn't cutting corners. If you're loving these leaks so far, drop a like on the video and subscribe. It really helps out. As filming continued through late July, production vehicles and filming permits were reported near the old magistrates' court in Waltford. Although HBO never confirmed the purpose of the location, its architecture and proximity to Leavesden immediately sparked speculation that it could be doubling for an early Ministry of Magic interior or, at the very least, serving as a visual seed for the wizarding bureaucracy that will become more important in later seasons. Whether or not the footage appears in Season 1, the fact that such a location was being prepared at all pointed to long-term planning rather than short-term necessity. Shortly after, filming activity was confirmed in Hemel, Hempstead, where roads were closed around John F. Kennedy Catholic School. This location is widely believed to be standing in for St. Gregory's primary school, the Muggle school Harry attends before Hogwarts. The place where Dudley bullies him and Harry pretty much just survives day to day. This is actually a really exciting detail because, let's be real, the movies never even showed this. They skipped straight to Hogwarts. Fans on Reddit pointed out how cool it is that HBO is staying true to the books by including this chapter of Harry's early life. It also fits HBO's whole pitch that the series is a faithful adaptation of the books. Whether it's showing more of Harry's miserable life in the cupboard under the stairs, or these glimpses of his normal school life before he learns he's a wizard, the series seems to really want to flesh it all out. By mid-August, filming activity in London escalated again, this time in a way that was impossible to ignore. Early one morning, Burrow High Street was effectively turned into a working backlot. Traffic slowed to a crawl, pedestrians stopped in place, and phones immediately came out as the HBO Harry Potter series took over the road. This wasn't a discreet shoot tucked away in a corner of the city. Burrow High Street was dressed to stand in for Diagon Alley, with production rehearsing scenes in full view of the public. And at the center of it all were Harry Potter and Rubeus Hagrid. Dominic McLaughlin was spotted clearly in costume, wearing a blue, green, and yellow rain jacket, Harry's round glasses, and moving confidently through the chaos despite his age. Walking beside him was Hagrid, or rather, two versions of Hagrid. On one side, a towering body double wearing a lifelike animatronic Hagrid head, fully dressed in the character's long moleskin coat, green striped shirt, thick belt, and heavy boots. On the other, Nick Frost himself, in full Hagrid costume but at normal height, seen standing next to a black taxi in the middle of the road. The contrast was deliberate and revealing. Hagrid is described in the books as being over 11 feet tall. Nick Frost, at around 1.7 meters, obviously isn't. Rather than relying solely on digital scaling, HBO appears to be using the same practical approach pioneered in the original films. Oversized sets, forced perspective, prosthetics, and a giant body double with an animatronic head to sell scale and physical presence. Some close-up shots showed Nick Frost wearing a partial facial rig with visible tracking markers, likely used to align his performance with the animatronic head and body double in post-production. The goal seems clear. Hagrid isn't meant to feel like a CGI creation. He's meant to feel heavy, tactile, and slightly awkward in the real world. Public reaction on social media was mixed at first, then increasingly relieved. Early skepticism about Frost's casting gave way to appreciation once it became clear that HBO wasn't shrinking the character to fit the actor. The production was doing the opposite, building the character outward using old-school effects enhanced by modern technology. Burrow High Street wasn't just a busy filming day. It was a public demonstration of how HBO plans to blend practical effects with careful blocking to preserve one of the most physically distinctive characters in the series. Late August, just days after Burrow High Street, the production moved to one of the most iconic locations in the entire Harry Potter story, King's Cross Station. This marked the first time the Weasley family was seen filming together, and HBO did not approach the moment quietly. Large sections of the station were taken over as Platform 9 3/4 was staged with period-accurate detail, firmly planting the story in the early 1990s. Alistair Stout, just 11 years old, was spotted in full Ron Weasley costume. Plaid overshirt, corduroy bell-bottoms, oversized duffel coat, and a school bag that looked slightly too big for him. Exactly the kind of hand-me-down aesthetic that defines Ron from the start. Between takes, he was seen bouncing around comfortably, pushing a luggage trolley in some shots and stepping aside in others as the blocking shifted. The rest of the Weasley clan followed, and their costuming immediately told a story. Fred and George appeared in exaggerated throwback outfits with leather jackets, tank tops, and flared trousers that leaned slightly more 1970s than 1990s, which oddly worked. The Weasleys have always existed a little outside normal fashion logic. Ginny was dressed in orange dungarees, a colorful crocheted cardigan, bright socks, and sandals. Clashing by design, not accident. Catherine Parkinson's Molly Weasley grounded the chaos. She was seen in a suede jacket with shoulder pads, a long skirt, and unmistakable early 90s hair and accessories. At one point, she was filmed wrangling the children in a way that required no dialogue to sell the character. In another, she was spotted holding what looked like a chunky late 1980s mobile phone, a small detail that reinforced the time period without drawing attention to itself. Between takes, the illusion dropped briefly. The twins threw coats over their costumes. Parkinson slipped into a dry robe and comfortable sandals. Then the cameras rolled again, and the family snapped back into formation. What stood out most about the King's Cross shoot wasn't spectacle. It was chemistry. Even this early into production, the group moved like a family. Slightly disorganized, loud, affectionate, and functional in the chaos. The scene felt intentionally grounded, suggesting HBO is letting the warmth of the Weasleys do the work instead of over-stylizing the moment. It was another sign that the series is prioritizing tone and character over visual excess. By late September, leaks from Hoddesdon, Hertfordshire, delivered one of the most revealing glimpses into HBO's creative priorities so far. The town center was transformed into a distinctly 1990s English high street. Vintage cars lined the road. Old-style Silver Cross prams were pushed through the crowd. Shop windows and newspapers referenced contemporary events, including Princess Diana's pregnancy, locking the timeline precisely where the books place it. This wasn't background flavor. It was deliberate world-building. Daniel Rigby was spotted in full Vernon Dursley costume, wearing a stiff suit, sporting a thick mustache, clutching a pastry, and looking visibly irritated at everything around him. Then came the key moment. Vernon collided with a wizard. John Furlong, playing Dedalus Diggle, was filmed enthusiastically celebrating Voldemort's fall in broad daylight. He grabbed Vernon's nose, danced around him, and radiated joy in a way that felt deliberately unsettling from a Muggle perspective. This scene comes straight from the opening chapter of Philosopher's Stone, a chapter the films almost entirely skipped. In the book, Vernon's day is filled with strange encounters, oddly dressed people, and inexplicable behavior that slowly erodes his sense of normality. Hoddesdon appears to be HBO's way of restoring that buildup. Instead of jumping straight to Privet Drive at night, the series is showing how the Wizarding World's celebration leaks into the Muggle one long before Harry is left on a doorstep. The reaction online was overwhelmingly positive. Fans praised the bright, almost exaggerated wizarding costumes, noting how closely they matched the book's descriptions. Comments repeatedly highlighted the purple outfits, the color palette, and the sense that the Wizarding World felt strange, joyful, and slightly inappropriate when viewed through Muggle eyes. More importantly, these leaks reassured skeptics. The reboot had faced criticism early on for existing at all and for certain casting decisions. Hoddesdon shifted the tone of the conversation. It showed that HBO wasn't just remaking familiar scenes. It was restoring narrative groundwork that had been missing for over 2 decades. Hoddesdon wasn't just another filming location. It was the clearest signal yet that this series intends to take its time, rebuild the story properly, and start exactly where it always should have. In early October, the production moved to Cornwall, and when it did, the tone shifted dramatically. Cornwall didn't just provide new scenery. It marked the point where the Dursleys' control over Harry fully collapsed. Filming took place in Cove, a small coastal village that was effectively transformed into a hostile, windswept refuge. Rain machines were used extensively. Fishing boats were positioned for camera, and the entire area was locked down for extended shoots. Unlike the quieter London scenes, this was physically demanding production, both for the cast and the crew. Leaks from the set showed Vernon Dursley interacting aggressively with local fishermen, shouting, gesturing wildly, and clearly unraveling. One detail in particular stood out. Vernon was seen purchasing what initially looked like a broom wrapped in paper, but was later revealed to be a gun. This moment comes directly from the book, where Vernon arms himself in a desperate attempt to protect his family from the letters and the unknown forces closing in on them. The films referenced this idea but never showed it. HBO did. By choosing to fully depict the Dursleys' flight and Vernon's paranoia, the series framed this sequence not as comic relief, but as the logical endpoint of a man trying to enforce normality through force. Cornwall wasn't just a location. It was the emotional and narrative breaking point for Harry's life with the Dursleys. These leaks also confirmed something else. HBO wasn't afraid of uncomfortable realism. The storm, the isolation, the hostility of the environment all underscored how far the Dursleys were willing to go to escape a world they didn't understand. When Hagrid eventually arrives, he doesn't interrupt a joke. He interrupts a collapse. By the time filming wrapped in Cornwall, it was clear that the series had already done something significant. It had taken a familiar opening story and given it weight, duration, and consequence. The Dursleys weren't a footnote. They were a chapter that the show was determined to close properly. Quick question for you. Did you expect HBO to spend this much time on the Dursleys? Let me know in the comments. After the intensity of the Cornwall shoot, the next major wave of leaks shifted the focus away from Harry and toward the adults shaping the world around him. This was the moment when the series stopped being only about rebuilding familiar scenes and started clearly expanding the story. Photos began circulating of John Lithgow filming in full Albus Dumbledore costume on a beach. The setting was strikingly minimal. Open shoreline, strong wind, and no visible Hogwarts or magical landmarks. At first glance, it was difficult to place the scene within the existing structure of Philosopher's Stone, and that uncertainty is exactly why the leak drew so much attention. As more information surfaced, the picture became clearer. Latin spell cues were spotted on set, and additional figures were photographed alongside Dumbledore. These were soon identified as Nicholas and Perenelle Flamel. This confirmation marked one of the most important revelations of the entire leak cycle. In the original films, the Flamels are only mentioned in passing. Their relationship with Dumbledore is implied, never shown. HBO's decision to place them physically on screen suggests a fundamental shift in storytelling approach. Rather than treating the Philosopher's Stone as a background object, the series appears to be grounding its importance in real relationships and real choices happening beyond Hogwarts. This also reframes Dumbledore himself. Instead of existing primarily as a wise observer within the school, he is shown operating in the wider wizarding world, actively engaged in protecting the stone and managing its consequences. The beach setting reinforces that idea. This is not a ceremonial moment. It feels private, deliberate, and slightly secretive. The fact that such an expansion leaked at all says a lot about the scale of the shoot. These were not quick inserts or second-unit pickups. This was principal photography in a real location, involving core characters and story-critical material. By early October, it had become clear that HBO was using the long-form structure of television to finally show the parts of the story that were always happening off-page. By late October, the pattern of leaks changed again. The village of Lustleigh in Devon became the next focal point, and from the moment filming began there, it was clear that HBO was handling one of the most sensitive parts of the Harry Potter story. Lustleigh was heavily restricted during filming. Roads were closed, access was limited, and local businesses like the Cleeve Inn temporarily shut down. Halloween decorations appeared throughout the village, and the overall atmosphere suggested a scene set years in the past, rather than the present-day timeline of the show. Everything pointed toward Godric's Hollow. This is a location that the films treated briefly and visually, but without much room to explore its significance. The leaks from Lustleigh suggested a different approach. Rather than a quick stop on a journey, Godric's Hollow appeared to be staged as a place where history lingers, where the aftermath of Voldemort's attack still defines the environment. What made these leaks especially striking was how little spectacle was involved. There were no large magical effects visible, no action-heavy sequences. Instead, the focus appeared to be on atmosphere, period detail, and emotional context. The village itself was the story. By filming extensively in a real, enclosed location, HBO seemed intent on grounding one of the saga's most important backstories in something tangible and lived in. Even the smaller details reinforce this approach. The production reportedly carried out minor road repairs during the shoot, an unintended but oddly fitting parallel to a story about revisiting old wounds and quietly repairing what was broken. Lustleigh didn't look like a set designed to impress. It looked like a place designed to remember. A few days later, the leak pattern changed again. Instead of tightly contained scenes with limited visibility, filming began spilling into environments where secrecy was practically impossible. In Skipton, large sections of the town were closed off for night shoots. Residents reported seeing production lights illuminating rooftops, with stunt performers positioned above street level. Leaked footage captured figures in wizarding robes casting spells from elevated positions, clearly part of a celebratory sequence rather than a confrontation. These scenes are widely believed to depict the immediate aftermath of Voldemort's defeat, showing the wizarding world reacting with open relief and celebration. This interpretation was reinforced by additional filming at Malham Cove, where a witch was filmed standing on the cliffs at sunset, raising her wand in what appeared to be a moment of triumph. Taken together, these locations strongly suggest that HBO is expanding the opening of the series beyond the Dursleys' perspective. Instead of starting purely in Privet Drive, the show appears to be cross-cutting between the Muggle world clinging to normality and the wizarding world openly celebrating the end of a war. This is a subtle but important tonal decision. It allows the audience to understand the emotional stakes of Voldemort's fall before Harry ever hears his name. The magic on display in Skipton and Malham Cove is not explosive or chaotic. It is controlled, communal, and almost ceremonial, reinforcing the idea that this world has rules, history, and collective memory. From a production standpoint, these leaks also confirmed HBO's willingness to film large-scale magical sequences in real locations, rather than relying solely on sound stages. That choice carries risk, especially in terms of leaks, but it also gives the series a grounded physicality that is difficult to fake. By the time filming reached Hertfordshire in November, the groundwork had been thoroughly laid. This was no longer a story about what Harry is leaving behind. It was about what he is entering. At the Ashridge estate, multiple days of filming revealed the clearest look yet at life inside Hogwarts. Leaks showed first-year students in full uniform participating in flying lessons, with Madam Hooch overseeing the chaos. Broom choreography was visible, as well as repeated takes involving Harry, Draco, Ron, Neville, and other students, confirming that these were not background shots but fully staged sequences. This was the first time the ensemble truly came together in leaked footage, and it made a difference. Until now, the leaks had focused on isolation, transition, and build-up. Hertfordshire marked the moment when the series finally shifted into the communal rhythm of Hogwarts life. When viewed individually, set leaks can feel chaotic, incomplete, or misleading. But when placed in strict chronological order, a very consistent picture emerges. HBO has approached this series with patience. The production didn't start at Hogwarts and work backward. It began with isolation, discomfort, and ordinary life, and then gradually expanded outward. Each phase of filming introduced a slightly wider world, a slightly deeper context, and a slightly more complex emotional framework. The Dursleys were not rushed. The Muggle world was not minimized. Key adult figures like Dumbledore were shown operating beyond the edges of the main narrative, and important historical locations were given the time and space they deserve. Equally important is what has not leaked. We haven't seen major interior Hogwarts scenes, emotionally pivotal moments, or finished magical effects. That absence suggests control rather than disorder. The production has been visible, but not careless. Leaks don't spoil stories, they reveal priorities. And so far, the priorities behind the HBO Harry Potter series appear to be clarity, structure, and long-term confidence. This isn't a project trying to rush toward nostalgia. It's one that seems willing to rebuild the story carefully, piece by piece, and trust that the final result will speak for itself. That's the full picture so far. And if the leaks are any indication, this series isn't just being made. It's being constructed with intent. If you want future leak recaps, production updates, or breakdowns like this one, please hit like and subscribe, because more is coming as filming continues. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.